Peace. This is DJ Elbow Greasy coming to you live from Oakland, California. I'm hoping you're having a wonderful um, Labor Day weekend. I know it was very restful for me. And get a chance to, spend some time with my wife and just relax, right? And get away from it all. So I really want to talk to you about four different articles in relation to Donald Trump. So two of them will be articles. One is about feeling undervalued, or entitled "Feeling Undervalued." Some young men see Trump as a beacon of masculinity. The other is Trump clemency. Recipient is accused of assaulting family members. And then the other two are going to be, one would be a guest essay entitled 11 Years in Prison for Killing Abuser. This is Justice. And the other will be an op-ed piece, opinion piece by Brent Stevens entitled Black Identity in Harris's Jamaican Roots. And so I'm going to spend this time talking about, obviously, Donald Trump and some of the issues that he brings to the table. I'll be doing this through, as I said, a few New York Times articles. And so, for those of you who don't know, this is Tuesdays with Trump. My name is DJ Elbow Greasy. I'm a professional DJ, and I'm a school teacher. And so this is an opportunity for me to share with you my perspectives on Donald Trump. I feel like there's a glare here. Maybe if I turn this light off, it won't be as much of a glare. Oh no, it makes it worse. Anyway, let's get on with the show. So I want to share with you these articles, and the first article I'm going to share with you is about this idea of manhood in Trump. And it's by Claire Kane Miller. And it's entitled Many Gen Z Men Feel Left Behind. Some see Trump as an answer. And it says, men under the age of 30 are much more likely to support Donald Trump than women their age. It's a far bigger gender gap than in older generations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the same article, except rather than read the whole article, I think they're just points that I want to make that come from the article. So they're just sections of the article that I have and that I've put into a Google Doc that I want to share with you. So again, many Generation Z men feel left behind. Some see Trump as an answer. Men under 30 are much more likely to support Donald Trump than women their age. It's a far bigger gender gap than in older generations. And here is a photo of some young boys who appear to be waiting a Trump rally, I'm assuming. Oh yeah, supporters waiting to see Donald Trump in Grand Rapids, Michigan last month. And it's by Claire Kane Miller. She called back 8 young men who had told Time Siena pollsters that they were planning on voting for Donald Trump. She starts off the article by talking about young men and young women. In some ways, this presidential election has become a referendum on gender roles, and in the generation with the biggest difference in opinion between male and female voters is Generation Z. And so, on the one side, which is true, I feel women are galvanized by not just the candidacy of Kamala Harris, but also the bombshell of the Me Too movement and or overturning of Roe v. Wade, right? So women are feeling very liberated and seeking justice. On the opposite side, there are men who feel that rapidly changing gender roles have left them behind socially and economically, and see former President Donald J. Trump as a champion of traditional manhood. Now that's just, to me, that's scary, right? It's scary to think that these youth see Trump as a definition of manhood. Like, we haven't even gotten to the idea that not only does he have these felonies, but he was accused of rape. So I hope we're going to get into that. But, the article doesn't mention that at all. It just gets to these polls. There's Time Siena polls of 6 swing states this month, taking after Ms. Harris became the presumptive Democratic nominee. Young men favored Mr. Trump by 13 points. While young women favored Ms. Harris by 38 points, a 51-point gap. And Mr. Trump's message has been particularly resonant for young men, without college degrees and young men of color. So that's so weird, right? Because as a man of color, people make assumptions that I did not go to college, right? So for that reason, I should be supporting Trump based on folks' assumptions. Or people would assume that I would support Trump. And then this idea that I'm a man of color, I consider myself to be young, I'm not supporting Trump. So I don't fit in either of those categories. And this show is going against the grain of what people are saying Trump supporters or who they are. But will I lie and say that I have friends of mine that are young men of color who also went to college that are supporting Donald Trump? Among men under 30 who voted for Mr. Biden in 2020, those who were sticking with him in swing state polls, that's me, but I'm not in a swing state, but whatever, in May were more likely to be white, ouch, and have college degrees. So I'm not white, but the assumption has been made that I don't have a college degree, as I previously stated. Then those shifting to Mr. Trump. Really? Are we now saying that brothers in Morehouse, who graduated from Morehouse, black men, are now more likely to vote for Trump? I don't know. That don't sound right. This poll, this Time Siena poll, I don't know who they're reaching out to. Economically, they're getting shafted. Really? Politically, they're getting shafted. And culturally, no one's looking out for them. These sound like, no disrespect, men with an agenda, or who just don't feel seen in society. Said Daniel A. Cox, director of the Survey Center on American Life at the American Enterprise Institute. If I'm not mistaken, these are those conservative institutes that put out the Project 2025. I mean, that might have been the Hoover Institute, but AEI is definitely up there. A right-leaning think tank who has written about the youth gender gap. I don't want to know what you think about the youth gender gap. I don't know where you're getting this idea from, right? They're drawn to his message, his persona, the unapologetic machismo he tries to exude. The persona? The unapologetic machismo he tries to exude? So the problem is they have a problem because they are the ones who want, that are drawn to that. That's a problem. That's not something to celebrate. That seems to be a problem to me. For those that are here, just want to make sure you have the link, and you have the link if you wanted to come join. Just let me know if you don't have that link. I'm going to copy the link now. So I will put it in the chat for those that wanted to join. Okay, make sure I put that in the chat. Awesome. All right, my apologies. Let's move on. In recent years, the two parties have been seen as offering men different visions of their place in American society. What? While the right has embraced conventional masculinity, true, the left has seemed to shun it, leaving many young men looking for an alternative. Okay, so they're shunning white superiority complex. That doesn't mean that you're a man. There are women who have a superiority complex. There are black men who have I wouldn't say a superiority, but definitely a more chauvinistic uh, perspective, and they're still Democrats. I'm going to talk as a feminist. We do it when we try to suggest women are brilliant and men are the problem, said Niobe Way, a professor of developmental psychology at NYU who has studied boys and men for 4 decades and in July published Rebels with a Cause, Reimagining Boys, Ourselves, and Our Culture. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a feminist. I don't I don't think we should just generalize and say men are the problem. I think the elevation of men is the problem. But to say that all men are the problem, like, Conversely, she said, Trump is definitely saying, I see you, I value you, I see your mess. Trump sees your masculinity. Come on now. Ranger Irwin, 20-year-old Trump supporter, a 20-year-old Trump voter who works at a discount tire in North Las Vegas, Nevada, said American society no longer lets boys be boys. But what was boys be boys? Locker room talk? What was that? I never understood what let boys be boys means. Men my age, from a very young age, we were told, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. Well, you're not. You're just supposed to sit here and be quiet. What? He said it's made being a man a little bit harder than it used to be. Oh my God. Hey, listen, I don't. Okay, I feel like I can relate to an extent. Okay, and that only extent where I can relate is where it seems to me there's this thing where, there's if you're there are people, I think, who look at men as, because you're a man, there's something wrong with you. Because you're a man, get out of my face, right? I think that that's true. I think there are people who are averse to men, but, I understand why they would be, but, I don't know. Feeling unmoored. Today's young women are the most educated ever. Thank you. Earning more college degrees than men. Let's go. Increasingly serving as their family's breadwinners. That's amazing. And reaching pinnacles of power in American society. God damn it. Let's go. For men, the last few decades have been more complicated. The share of men working has gone down. Many of the jobs that mostly men did, especially manual labor, not requiring a college degree, have disappeared. The share of men without partners is growing. Am I supposed to feel sorry for these men? I don't know. It feels weird. Like, shouldn't we celebrate women who are about their business and they're moving forward in society? You know what I mean? And if you even look at this, Diddy situation, how many of those women he held back, right? Or are we supposed to just assume that they, that's what they wanted in life, right? We don't know how many women could have been the next Kamala Harris, right? But it was a time when it wasn't accepted. Man, what? Wow. I mean, I guess I have to just accept that there are men out here living that way and feeling this way. Mr. Trump, with his cage fighting, shirt ripping, insult hurling campaign, has offered an alternative, aggressive version of masculinity. That doesn't seem masculine to me. That seems ignorant. Like, as if all men who are politicians rip off the shirts at the DNC and hurl insults at other candidates. They don't. That's making it seem as though Barack Obama wasn't manly. You know what I'm saying? His running mate J.D. Vance offers another in his emphasis on the importance of patriarchal families and women raising children. See, I just think they're leaning into the idea of masculinity. J.D. Vance is not a masculine man to me. J.D. Vance is a portrait of a doppelganger. Like, he is the pinnacle of another person he wishes he was, right? He's trying to adapt and profess manliness, as is Trump. And we all know he's a sucker. We all know he's scared. We all know if he really wanted to be about it and, march with the people, right? He could have, right? He could have told the Secret Service to stand down. Get out of here, man. I think he's a coward. And I think that it's his idea of bravado. I know people who are really bravado, and that doesn't mean that they can't apologize. And that doesn't mean that they hurl insults, right? We should not say this is embodying any form of masculinity, because that's an insult on masculinity. We're saying he's embodying ignorance. He's embodying white supremacy. There's nothing masculine about ignorance and white supremacy. Together, said Christian Matthews, a pollster, they've created the testosterone ticket. Really? You own that now? Like, you own testosterone. I think they own the idea of determining who has testosterone and who doesn't have enough, or who has more than they should, right? Vance himself has said that the Democratic Party is run by childless cat ladies. That's just an ignorant statement. I don't even view that as a form of masculinity. Masculinity is also holding the door for women. Masculinity is being a gentleman. Masculinity is also being vulnerable. Who's defining what masculinity is in general? Well, they're saying it's conventional masculinity, but call it what that is. Call that an extension of misogyny. I don't see, or an extent conventional, say then conventional masculinity is misogynistic. It's choosing to be ignorant or actually being ignorant. It is white supremacy. Like, you're falling short of these things. Vance himself has said that childish cat ladies, all right, and that is his projection of a sort of feminine, intolerant, not all-American party, she said. And then their party is exalting this sort of male, muscular, working-class, drive a pickup truck, keep going, made in USA, keep going, version of the party, no, keep going, KKK, tech bro, whatever you want to say, but like, keep going, right? Don't stop there. I feel like you're touching on things, you're just not going into the details. I admire his strength and his macho demeanor. Come on, all due respect, Clara Kane, I know you're missing a few things. I'll tell you this, so my wife and I went out to get drinks in Oakland Saturday night, and we went to a bar. I won't say their name, but the bartender seemed to be upset because I asked her to wipe down the table. Now later I was told that she's in the back shaking, and in the owner asked me to give him an idea of like, well, what was said, and I made clear to him what I said. you know could you please wipe down the table? Now, did she take it as I'm a man telling a woman what to do? Did she take it as I'm saying it in some particular tone and I'm projecting a machismo, chauvinistic man because I also walked in with the woman, so now I'm heterosexual man, you know what I mean? And do I think there are folks who upon my presence they are offended? Absolutely. Absolutely. Is it because I'm a black man? 1,000%. 1,000%. In fact, the individual said to me, "Oh, well, their partner is black." You know what? I don't care. I don't know how their partner identifies. I don't know how their partner projects. But, I'm not going to say I'm a masculine man. I am a heterosexual man. But there are masculine men who are gay. So I don't get where this idea of conventional masculinity somehow defines Trump supporters. It should, maybe they want to say their odd definition of conventional masculinity, something along those lines. But that just didn't gel well with me, me personally. Anyway, why don't we move on? So, we're going to check out this article about Jonathan Braun. I don't know if y'all heard about Jonathan Braun before. So, Jonathan Braun was a recipient of clemency from Donald Trump, meaning, I believe, whatever they were accused of, a reason why they are in court, or I'll have charges, they're going to be dismissed or somehow expunged. But anyway, so this clemency recipient, Jonathan Braun, is accused of assaulting his wife and father-in-law. Come on now. Is this what we're doing? We're assaulting our wives and we're assaulting our wife's father. Like, what? Are you still married? Is she seeking a divorce? Are you seeking a divorce? Should you think you should still be married to your wife if you are accused of assaulting her, and then the father is the one who, the wife's father actually is being assaulted by the husband of your daughter? That sounds crazy. In fact, it would be Jonathan Braun, R.I.P. if I'm not mistaken, because what you not going to do is beat up my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to let you do that and we're going to be cool. You would be up under the jail, or at least be in the hospital. And unfortunately, people, from this article, he's in neither. So Jonathan Braun, whose drug sentence was commuted by Donald Trump shortly before he left office, remember he left office around 2020, right? Was charged on Long Island. The latest incident to raise questions of how clemency applications were vetted. We're not raising questions. We already know. Like, I don't also understand how that wasn't, like, there were no federal charges for that. Because there needs to be something along the lines. Because let me tell you something, man. Hunter Biden, pardon. I don't care that Biden said he wasn't going to pardon his son. Pardon. Period. All charges. You know what I mean? Like, nah. You're not coming at my kid. Pardon. And if he doesn't pardon him, I'm going to be pissed. Wait till you hear about this dude. Okay? So I'm going to share with you. First of all, what does he look like? This is Jonathan Braun. I'll wait. Lone shark from New York pardoned by Trump. What? Look at them on the golf course. I just can't, man. I can't. I can't. I see Kushner there. Oh man, this is gonna be disgusting. You know this is gonna be bad. All right, let's check this out. Okay. So ever since Donald Trump issued a series of pardons and commutations as he left office, he and his allies have defended his administration's vetting of clemency candidates, claiming they went through a vigorous screening process. You know that's a damn lie. Donald Trump did not put anybody through any kind of vigorous screening of anything. You know that. But the case of one of those convicts, a New York drug dealer and predatory, can you be one or the other? Can you not be a drug dealer and predatory lender? Named Jonathan Braun, who had a history of violence. And you have a history of violence? And face an array of other legal problems? Has stood out and raised doubts. Let's see. On Tuesday, the police on Long Island arrested Mr. Braun after he allegedly punched his 75-year-old father-in-law in the head. I'm sorry, you did what? You punched your 75-year-old father-in-law in the head? Really? Mr. Braun struck his father-in-law twice. Like once, and I'm thinking I'm about to die. What is wrong with me? And then I do it again? Are you serious? I'm like, I can't even say those words. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's find out. What was the father-in-law doing? As he tried to protect his daughter from Mr. Braun, who was chasing her while the couple had an argument in their home. All right. Let me get this straight. I'm chasing my wife because we got into an argument. So the argument went so far that I got to chase you. This is the kind of person Trump offers a pardon to. A man who, after getting out of prison, now I'm going to chase my wife in the house and punch my father-in-law twice in the head for trying to protect. According to the Nassau County District Attorney Office, Mr. Braun's wife, according to court documents, told police that Mr. Braun had assaulted her twice in the past 5 weeks. God damn. So apart from me chasing you, I've actually also assaulted you twice in the past 5 weeks. Motherfucker, why? I don't get it. Aren't you out of prison? You could be in jail. On July 17th, here we go. The court document said Mr. Braun threw his wife off a bed onto the floor, causing her substantial pain and bruising her legs. WTF. I'm throwing you off the bed and on the floor. And last week on August 12th, this dude got an issue with summer. What are we doing in July and August that we assaulting our wives? Isn't this the most? And you in Long Island? Something wrong with you, bruh. You need to go back to jail. Straight up. No bail, just go back. And someone needs to be looking at this knowing that he was, prior to Trump's pardon, in prison, right? And he's violent. And you're just going to let him out. Last week on August 12th, on August 12th, Mr. Braun threw her to the floor and punched her in the head multiple times. Causing her substantial pain, bruising to her arms, legs, and head, causing her to feel dizzy. Yo, how is this dude, how is he not in jail? I'm so confused. How, after she tells them this, he's not up under the jail? How come charges are... Mr. Braun pleaded not guilty. Oh, so you contesting this. Prosecutors asked for bail, but a judge released him without it. He was already serving prison time, and the prosecutors asked for a bail, but then you said no. What world are we living in? Asked about the arrest, Caroline Leavitt, a spokeswoman for Mr. Trump, said the former president wants criminals to spend time behind bars. Okay. He don't even want to go behind bars, and he a criminal. She did not respond to a follow-up question about whether Mr. Trump regretted giving Mr. Braun clemency. His arrest will likely be reported by a probation officer or prosecutor to the federal judge in Brooklyn who oversaw his original conviction tied to his smuggling and distributing large quantities of marijuana. Come on, bruh. I mean, this dude just got a wish, man. Like, he just... What was it? We live by that hope creed. I wish a brother would. Like, he lives by that creed. Like, he wishes they would arrest him. I don't get it. The judge would then have to decide whether there was enough evidence that Mr. Braun did indeed violate the supervised release and make a decision on whether to send him back to prison. I mean, is that even a question? Mr. Braun was among a parade of convicts who used connections, money, and influence to seek pardons from Mr. Trump, who ran an often ad hoc process for considering clemency requests, largely bypassing an established Justice Department system. Oh, it gets better. Mr. Braun had a history of violence, including throwing a man off a deck in 2018. A deck of what? Like, from a deck, like a patio deck? We talking a boat? What are we talking about? And years earlier, beating an underling with a belt. Are you saying beating a child with a belt? I don't know what you mean by that. And had recently been sued by New York State and the Federal Trade Commission for his role as a predatory lender. That's a problem. The commutation also dealt a major blow to an ambitious criminal investigation being conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan that was trying to hold predatory lenders who were fleeing small businesses accountable. This is terrible. So now you can't pursue the case against them. In the days before Mr. Braun received his commutation, prosecutors and his lawyer were in negotiations over a deal in which he would be let out of prison in exchange for flipping on industry insiders and potentially even wearing a wire. Oh, so you were going to get him to be held accountable, and then you decided, we can't do it anymore. And so he's like, yo, fuck y'all. I'm not doing this. I'm out. And now he's out. So he just feels like he never will be held accountable for anything. So he's going to keep doing the shit. But the commutation instantly destroyed the government's leverage on Mr. Braun. Yep. And the investigation sputtered out. Yeah, makes sense. We call that white privilege. And then after he was released, he quickly went back to working as a predatory lender, but faced civil action by New York State and the Federal Trade Commission, asserting that he was fleecing small businesses through excessive interest rates and fees. Ain't that what he went to jail for? At one point, he threatened a rabbi who owed him money, saying, "I'm going to make you bleed." Yo, who does that, man? So that's the kind of person that Trump lets out, and no one acknowledges that this dude is anti-Semitic. In February, Judge Jed S. Rakoff of the Federal District Court of Manhattan excoriated Mr. Braun and imposed $20 million in fines on Mr. Braun after finding him liable for the accusations made by the Trade Commission. Judge Rakoff described Mr. Braun as a craven man who gleefully, with little remorse, I think that's what I've been saying this whole time, right? Boasted about his illegal conduct and treated it as a laughing matter as he threatened the business owners he gouged. That's what I said. That's exactly what I said. Oh, wait. No, there's not more. In May, Resorts Casino in Las Vegas paid for Mr. Braun. Why are we doing this? His cousin and others to fly him from New York to Nevada on a private jet. Who's doing this? We're missing why he was chosen. Why Resorts Casino chose him. On a private plane to gamble as high rollers. Also, they just fronted like they just had all this money as high rollers, right? Where are you getting your money from? Predatory lender, drug dealing? You know what I'm saying? On the flight, an attendant saw evidence that passengers had been using narcotics. You think? And notified the pilot, according to a police report. The police met the plane when it landed, and an officer confiscated a small bag of white powder. Duh. Okay, so now you're going to jail, right? From the plane. What am I reading? But did not arrest Mr. Braun or any other passengers, according to the report. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a justification why Coke is legal now in Nevada? Is that what we're saying? And you're traveling across state lines. Maybe it's with intent to sell or to distribute. No, we're letting that rock, right? That's okay. Okay. Resorts Casino kicked Mr. Braun out of the hotel. How you get to the hotel in the first place? Like, I'm not thinking I got caught and y'all are flying me across the country and somehow I'm actually going to get near the hotel. It might have said the hotel invitation was rescinded upon realization of said white powder substance, but don't say I'm kicked out of it, because that would imply that I was somehow physically in it, right? Along with being charged on Wednesday with second and third degree assault, good, prosecutors accuse him of failing to pay $160 in tolls as he drove his white Lamborghini and black Ferrari convertible across a bridge on Long Island, and said he'd been driving the cars without having any license plates on them. This is the man that gets his charges pardoned, and he comes out and beats up his wife. I mean, he got out in 2020, 2021. I'm like, why hasn't the New York Times? I, no shade, but I hope people have been addressing this. Like here, we've been talking about George Santos this whole time. George Santos ain't punch anybody. I mean, white collar crime is terrible, but this dude, he's doing white collar crime, drug dealing, drug smuggling, and he's beating up his wife. Is this what we're doing? This is what we're doing. So then Trump, people want to have a conversation and say like, "Yo, fam," uh, I, so at a news conference in Mar-a-Lago, he was asked about this, right? And he claimed that he set up a commission as president to have clemency applications vetted, and says, "I had a commission. It was a very important commission to me and highly respected people. Name one." Where are the notes from the meeting? Where are the minutes? Name one person that made the decision. I just want one person that voted for Braun. Just name one. I had a commission. It was a very important commission to me and highly respected people. And frankly, they came up with some decisions that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. Oh, but I did it. That's him saying, I didn't, yeah, he should not have been let out. But, I did it. Why? You're the president. You're not a president. You're the president. One of the most powerful, he is the most powerful person in the world. Hands down. But, Braun is Trump. Trump is Braun. That's how they roll. Right? They don't think they'll ever be held accountable, and they'll do whatever they want to do. Period. It was unclear what commission he was referring to. Mr. Trump repeatedly circumvented the office of the pardon attorney and relied on recommendations for clemency from friends, allies, and family members. No, duh. I mean, I literally have to say no, duh, because what are we talking about? We all know he's a liar. He's a criminal. He needs to be in prison, right? Anyway, that was Kirsten Noyes, Seamus Hughes, and Taylor Robinson contribute to the reporting. Michael Schmidt is an investigative reporter for the Times covering Washington. And then Maggie Haberman is a senior political correspondent reporting on the 2024 presidential campaign, down ballot races across the country, and investigations into former President Donald J. Trump. Oh my God, this was that was terrible. That was terrible. So that was by Michael Schmidt, and Maggie Haberman. My Lord from Zion. Okay, so this is to set us up for the third of 4 articles that I'm sharing with you tonight. And this one hurts. It hurts because I would hate. I'm very fortunate for my mom to have been there for me. And I say this, unfortunately, I do think that I lived in a building where this stuff happened, right? There was a young girl whose mother, I think, was, lady of the night, right? And so I often wonder how she's doing. She was my age. We used to hang out outside our building. I have another friend whose mom was definitely a woman of the night, and I never forgot her picking him up from school one day. And I remember we all saw her and we're like, oh shit, yo, who's that? And dude was like, yo, that's my mom's cuz. And it just was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like how you deal with that. And this was elementary school. This wasn't even middle school. And we pretty much, put 2 and 5 together. But I think the next article is difficult, knowing what I just read, knowing what we started with, this whole idea of men feeling that they can relate to Trump because he represents conventional masculinity, right? And then we read about this Jonathan Braun brother who clearly embodies conventional masculinity with his Lamborghini and his Ferrari and beating up his wife, and then choosing to assault your father-in-law, and you're smuggling drugs, and you're a predatory lender. You know what I'm saying? So that's conventional masculinity, right? That's what we're saying conventional masculinity is. Again, I call it ignorance, but that being said, let's get into this. It is an opinion piece, and it's a guest essay by Rachel Louise Snyder. She's a contributing opinion writer and the author of the book No Visible Bruises. What we don't know about domestic violence can kill us. So we're talking about Chrystul Kizer, who received 11 years in prison for killing her abuser. And the question is, this is justice? So as I see the picture, all I see is someone who just looks defeated, but her chin is held high. Because I feel like she's saying, I know I'm right. I know God sees me. And I could see that she's alone. There's I don't know if that's black tape, something scrawled, but I just see this beautiful black woman with her cornrows and her neck up, her chin up. When they see us, what do they see? Do they just see the orange jumpsuit? Do they notice that I'm not wearing makeup? Am I not pretty to you? Am I not a woman? Let's get into this, y'all. In 2018, a black teenager named Chrystul Kizer shot and killed a 34-year-old white man named Randall Voller III, who had sexually abused and trafficked her starting when she was 16 years old. She was 17 at the time of the killing. This week, a Wisconsin judge sentenced her to 11 years in prison, with another 5 under supervision. Rather than serving justice, her case illustrates with seeing clarity the sexism and racism that corrupt our criminal justice system. I'm just hearing about this. So there's a 2019 investigation by the Washington Post about Miss Kizer's life. Her single mother, who struggled to support her 4 children, the abusive man, and the family's time in a homeless shelter. Miss Kizer wanted money for snacks and school supply. The child wanted money for snacks and school notebooks. So she placed an ad in an online forum called Backpage.com, which was notorious for sex trafficking. It has since been shut down. Mr. Voller was the first one who answered. He showered her with gifts and took her to fancy dinners. She wanted snacks and school notebooks. And this man showered her with gifts and took her to fancy dinners. She understood there was a price to these extravagances. But before long, oh shit, my bad. I should be sharing my tab. I'm sorry. But before long, she said he was taking her to hotels to have sex with other men. He'd wait outside for her and insist she turn the money over to him. He called himself an escort trainer. One night when he wanted to have sex and she brushed him off, she said she fell to the ground and he jumped on top of her, trying to force off her clothes. She shot him twice in the head. And then, the police said, set his body on fire. What's the problem here? I'm so sorry that happened, but I don't know why. She is behind bars. How old did you say she was? 16? Before this started? And this went on for about a year? So she's 17. Ms. Kizer's case has been in the national spotlight since she killed Mr. Volar. A petition to drop her charges has garnered more than 1.5 million signatures. Well, let's make it 1.5 million in one, because what we're not gonna do is sit up in here and not do this petition. So we're gonna just do this right now. I don't live in New York no more. I live in Oakland. Oh yeah, let's get this going. Oakland, yeah. California, yeah. I'm signing because optional. It's optional. She should have never been arrested. Boom. Let's sign this petition, man. Yeah, I'll give you money later, but I can't right now. I'm not going to show my information. No, I'll share instead. Yeah. Oh, man. I'll share this multiple times. I'll copy the link and we're going to put it into into the chat here. All right. This is a damn shame. Man, damn shame. No, I'm not going to add my voice to her. I'm not going to do that. Alright, we're going to move on from this. And let's get back to the article. Okay. So now we're 1.5 million in one. And what was a major win for her side, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled in 2022 that she could argue that her crime was justified because she was trafficked by Mr. Voller. Sounds great, right? a groundbreaking ruling for trafficking victims. In order to make that argument, however, she would have to take her chances on a long, difficult, very public trial, or she could take a plea deal. I'm confused. So she must have taken the plea deal because she was just sentenced to 11 years. But if you already, why do I have to make the argument if I'm trafficked, right? If I'm trafficked and I'm even being held against my will, then it should be understood that I shouldn't have to go to trial to prove that I was trafficked. You know that I was trafficked, so let's just move forward and say we're dropping the charges, right? I mean, or even be considered time served. I'm sure she had to serve some time, right? Four months before his death, Mr. Volar had been arrested after another young girl called 911 claiming he'd drugged her and was threatening to kill her. This sounds like a open and shut case. Why are we still using our resources to deal with this? The police searched his home and found hundreds of videos of sexual abuse. He had a penchant for black girls like Miss Kizer. Hers was among those young faces found in the videos. Mr. Volar was released without bail the same day, pending an investigation. What am I reading? Are you kidding me? He was released without bail the same day, pending an investigation. The police saw girls in the videos that looked as young as 12 and 13, and yet, in most of the cases, we didn't know the age, the prosecutor, Mr. Michael Gravely, told the Post. My God. So we literally did not know whether we had misdemeanors or a felony. But you got something. You got a misdemeanor or a felony. I cannot. Imagine a black man, thank you, age 34, thank you. Imagine him with videos of young white boys who appear to be 12, 13, 14 years old. Thank you. Imagine those videos contain footage of grown men having sex with young boys. Thank you. Imagine that 20 of those videos were shot by the suspect himself. Thank you. Now tell me, in what world does law enforcement let such a person go free without bail? Boom. Exactly what I'm saying. In what world do investigators hold on to those videos for months, seemingly baffled by the task of finding out the ages of the girls? Thank you. In what world is the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony an excuse for this level of inaction? Thank you. In this world, the one we've created, courts and prosecutors have long claimed that young girls seduce men or consent to abuse or have ulterior motives, such as in Miss Kizer's case, killing an unsuspecting man for his fancy car. What? Are you fucking kidding me? You think he killed this dude for his car? In this world, black girls especially are routinely over-sexualized by law enforcement and the judiciary. The lead investigator in the case against Mr. Volar wrote of one of Mr. Volar's victims that she was prostituting herself out. He was writing about a 15-year-old. I'm going to say that again. In this world, black girls especially are routinely over-sexualized by law enforcement and the judiciary. The lead investigator in the case against Mr. Volar wrote one of Mr. Volar's victims that she was prostituting herself out. And he was writing about a 15-year-old. Beth Ritchie, the author of the classic book Compelled to Crime, The Gender Entrapment of Battered Black Women, told me that racist stereotypes enable court systems to filter out all misunderstanding that a black woman could possibly have been a victim of horrendous abuse. She presents as a violent black woman, not a survivor of gender-based violence. I tell you, people don't see black women. They just don't see them. Remember Centoya Brown? A black woman who made national news. She spent 15 years in a Tennessee prison after she killed a man who trafficked her when she was 16. How about Tammy Johnson? A black girl who was trafficked starting at age 14 by a boyfriend who later became her pimp. She had to earn his love by sleeping with other men and bringing in the money. If she refused, she was beaten with a baseball bat or a belt buckle or the heel of a shoe. Eventually, another pimp killed one of her clients, and she drove the getaway car. She was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. She served 28 years before her sentence was commuted. You think Trump commuted that sentence? I want to know who commuted that sentence. That's crazy. 28 years. 2023, Tammy Johnson, Cooper Garden, she was hunkered down. She was in Bustamante. Yeah, there she goes. Like Deborah, another woman, Tammy spent 28 years in prison, unjustly sentenced as a LWOP, life without the possibility of parole. She was sex trafficked at the age of 14, in prison for 28 years for being in the car while her pimp murdered a client. Her sentence was commuted in 2018 when she was hired by Home Free as its reentry in February 2021. Well, shit, if it was commuted in 2018, that is Trump. Right? Because Trump is, yeah, that's Trump. My God. And that, she might have been one of the people that, what's her name, talked about. What's her name? Yeah. She might have been the one, someone that, Kardashian helped get out of prison. Shit. So she faced 30 years on the plea, but 30 years wasn't life, at least, so she took the plea deal. She could have risked a trial, of course, but consider what the world had taught her by then. A poor black girl with men's violence and control all around her, with a law enforcement system that prioritized her abuser's freedom at the cost of her trauma. A world that said sometimes you were hungry and sometimes you needed school supplies, but no good comes from wanting. For 6 years, her case was in and out of court, all the way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And what did that get her? An impossible gamble. What were the odds she'd prevail in this world we've made for her? So she got 11 fucking years. She's already served 7, so she has to do 4 more and then she has to do 5 years of supervised release. Absolutely not. Please pardon her sentence, President Biden. You're still president. You're still the most powerful person in the world, hands down. That just gets to me, you know? Mm. I'm not going to leave myself with that. I'm not going to leave you with that. I really want to, hey, let's take a look at our last article. Um, yeah, we signed the petition already. That's what's up. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris. All right. Since, this is, Tuesdays with Trump, but, Trump was the one who wanted to talk about her identity. And so, it's Labor Day weekend, and we might as well get into some Jamaican roots, right? As they do every Labor Day. And in Brooklyn, I can smell the food from here. Oh my God, just thinking about it. The curry. Oh my God, the curry, the jerk, the seafood, the music. I did hear that there was a shooting. I hope everybody's okay. But I'm sad to hear that there was a shooting. Yeah, before I get into it, I just want to double check to see if that's the case. Oh, shit. 5 people shot? Oh, that's not cool, man. Shit. I wouldn't wish that on nobody. I hope everybody's safe. Wow, let's see what's going on. No, man. 5 people shot on Monday. Same parade. Shit. This is not random. Intentional act with one person towards a group of people. I guess I'm trying to figure out what time did it happen. 57th year. Now they're going to go into the history of it. Damn. That's a freaking shame. I'm so sorry to hear that. So the New York Times, when they talked about the West Indian Parade, I think they have these photos. I mean, this is life-changing shit for me to see this, because I've never witnessed that before. The parade is fire. I love the parade. If you ever get a chance, please go to the West Indian Day Parade in Brooklyn. Anyway, so I'm going to get into this article here, and something positive about Kamala Harris's roots. This is by Brent Staples. The Black Identity in Kamala Harris's Jamaican Roots. All right, this is the brother Brent Staples. Millions of Black Americans are descended from slaveholders who fathered children with women they owned. White ancestry is especially common among those of us whose families were enslaved in Thomas Jefferson's Virginia, where the planter class was notorious for its mixed-race children. Preach. My white great-great-grandfather, who managed the estate where my great-great-grandmother was held captive, was probably unknown even a county away. However, the wealthy slave owner whom Kamala Harris's father, Donald Harris, claims as part of the family tree, was someone to be reckoned with on both sides of the Atlantic. Who's this? Hamilton Brown was believed to have been born in County Antrim, Ireland in 1776. Okay. He set out to make his fortune in the Caribbean sugar trade and in the commerce in human beings, upon which it depended. Oh boy. By the early 19th century, he was remaking St. Anne's Parish in Jamaica from his estate not far from Montego Bay. So I know it as St. Anne's Bay, and that's where I visited my wife's family. Donald Harris grew up during the 1940s and 50s in a settlement known as Brownstown. He was baptized, confirmed, and installed as an acolyte in the Grand Anglican Church that Hamilton Brown had built. The family members who watched over Donald Harris when he was a child included his paternal grandmother, Christiana Brown, who owned a dry goods store and traced her lineage to Mr. Brown. The Hamilton Brown story has been getting its media moment since Kamala Harris became the Democratic presidential nominee. The people of Brownstown, as well as County Antrim, seemed thrilled at the possibility of a connection to a president. In the black diaspora, generally, the story strikes a note of recognition among those of us who have always spoken openly of the slaveholders who gained entrance to our families, whether through rape or consensual relations. But the Irish Baron's story has also become the target of a trolling campaign aimed at denying Kamala Harris the right to a black identity. Denise D'Souza, the right-wing provocateur, said she was ineligible to declare herself a descendant of the enslaved because she might have had an owner of slaves among her forebears. What? Oh my God. The radio host Mark Levine assumed that because her mother was from India and her father was from Jamaica, to the best of my knowledge, her ancestry does not go back to slavery at all. Do these people read books? I don't think they read books about the history, America's history, particularly slavery. That is the most ignorant shit I've ever heard. Had Kamala Harris been young and unformed, she might have reacted to such comments by deploring stories of the family's ancestry in Jamaica, a blood-drenched epicenter of the trade in human beings. But by the time this inquisition started during her 2020 campaign for president, she had long since seen that there was no upside in explaining herself to people who were obsessed with questions of racial identify. I'm sure they meant identity. So it didn't matter what I say. I can't explain it to you because all you are going to question is, my racial identity and do I deserve to be at this table? I thought about that when it came to the post I put out in Nextdoor, just describing what happened at that restaurant. And I wanted to explain myself, and then I happened to see that the post was in hiding, according to Nextdoor, because it might have broken one of the community guidelines, which is white folks responding to it with anger and frustration, and they themselves using foul language, not me, right? So why explain yourself to people who don't care in the first place? I see you, Kamala. I was going to ask myself that. Why don't you go into detail? But they don't care about her in the first place. Her answer to such questions have become, as she told the Washington Post, I am who I am. I'm good with it. You might need to figure it out, but I'm fine with it. Let's go. That's my new shit. Nevertheless, the story of her family's Caribbean life gives us a sense of what was driving her. When she said during a 2019 interview that she had been born black and would die black without making excuses to people who refuse to understand. I'm going to say that again. Born black and it's going to die black, and I ain't making no excuses to people who don't understand, who refuse to understand. The belief that human bondage in the United States was the main event of the transatlantic slave trade is common but false. At least 70% of the 12 million captives who were taken out of Africa were destined for sugar colonies that were centered in the Caribbean. Jamaica, an island about the size of Connecticut, received more than twice as many Africans as all of the 13 North American colonies. I'm going to read that again. Jamaica, an island about the size of Connecticut, received more than twice as many Africans as all of the 13 North American colonies. The historian Adam Hochschild aptly describes the Caribbean as the slaughterhouse of the slave trade. Jamaica was perhaps the worst. Sugar plantations needed constant replenishing because they killed off captives at a horrific pace. Through savage working conditions and starvation diets that disrupted female fertility, planters reacted by pressuring younger women into sex, encouraging nuclear families that the sociologist Orlando Patterson describes as reproductive units, to create as many children as possible as quickly as possible. The planter set the stage for starvation by failing to invest in food for those children. Terror was the primary method of controlling the enslaved. The historian Trevor Bernard writes, as a result, Jamaican slavery was especially brutal even by the elevated standards of New World brutality. The sociopathic Englishman Thomas Thistlewood documented his horrific treatment of the people he owned in a diary he kept for nearly 4 decades. He whipped men and women at the slightest provocation, rubbing salt, lime juice, or urine into the wounds. Those who fell far enough out of favor were obliged to lie still as another person defecated in their mouths, and were then gagged. Mr. Thistlewood conscientiously recorded his sexual predations, recounting 3,852 acts of intercourse with 138 women over 37 years in Jamaica. None of the women he owned escaped his assaults. Kamala Harris's family is quite near to Jamaican slavery in the generational sense. Christiana Brown, her great-grandmother, was born around the turn of the 1880s when the slave owner and legislator Hamilton Brown, from whom she claimed to be descended, was not yet 40 years dead. What was her relationship to her brown relatives? Did they grant her the money that gave her a start in business? Did they deny her, as often happened to colored people in white families, leaving her to her own devices? How many family members were white and how many were brown? These are questions for archivists and historians, but the timing of Christiana's birth reveals something important: that she knew formerly enslaved people and had absorbed the stories of their lives. Those stories would have formed the emotional backdrop of her relationship with her grandson, Donald Harris. Whether or not she explicitly shared them, he was 14 years old and utterly bereft when she died in 1951. As he wrote several years ago in an essay in Jamaican Global Online. In that same essay, Mr. Harris, a distinguished economist who taught at Stanford, reminisced about his frequent visits to Jamaica to walk his daughters, Kamala and Maya, through the richness and complexity of Brownstown. It seems likely that the Democratic presidential nominee knows Christina Brown's story, but has refrained from exploiting it for political gain. Having come this far, she is unlikely to change strategies now. And you bet not. I ain't got to tell them nothing. Nothing at all. You go, Kamala. I'm so excited about your candidacy. This is Tuesdays with Trump, and I think we addressed just the mood, the sentiment that Donald Trump is creating in this country. But damn it, this is the 4th of 14 episodes. We have 10 more to go. All right. And the last is going to be on election night. So please make sure you get out and vote. I hope those of you that are supporting Donald Trump, take a listen to what I'm saying. Or why don't you come on to my show? We have 9 more or 10 more. We'd love to have you. All right? Yo, I wish you all a safe week. Next week we're going to discuss August 27th up to, I don't know what that would be in September. Today's the 2nd, so that's Monday. So yeah, tomorrow, right? It'll be the 3rd. So August 27th to September 3rd. All right. I look forward to sharing it with you all, and I wish you all peace. And thanks for this time with Tuesdays with Trump. I'm DJ Elbow Greasy, aka Holmes, aka Levert, aka Levert Holmes, right? And I wish y'all a good night and be safe and be good to each other. All right, peace.